that would cause someone else to quit early in the day, but you keep going. That kind of willingness to overcome all circumstances.
One of the most common things in life is having a negative attitude. You always hear people complaining about this, that, and the other, and every time you turn on the news, you see things that are negative. You see bad news. It's rare and far and few between that you turn on the news and see something positive or something good happening around you.
It's possible. If kids knew it was possible, do you think they would ask, how can you do that?
Something you're going to have to deal with. You're not going to ignore it, but you're going to figure out how to handle that. How to figure out working with all this negative all the time. Life without seeing something negative. But you are going to need to figure out how to handle
realizing exactly where we are, no nonsense, this is the real deal.
Those negative consequences, those negative things, and those times that you fail. And once you're learning about them and figuring out why they're negative and such, you are going to figure out then how to take all that information and prosper and take it and grow. Use that as fertilizer to boost your growth, because you learn so much more from the bad stuff in life.
And here's the big one. Admit your mistakes to yourself.
Than you will from doing incredible at everything you do. Because when things don't go your way is when you learn how to face adversity, and when you learn how to grow, when you learn how to change and adapt in order to meet the situation at hand. That's when you really become successful, and then nothing is going to be able to stop you. Once you've fought adversity and once you've been down for the count and you decide to get up and keep fighting, that's when you know you'll be able to make it.
With my heart and soul, we are fulfilling Mark's dream. And that's what I've wanted to do for the last 29 years.
Here's a good phrase to note. Negative is normal. It's not successful, but it's normal. It's part of life. And here's the next key, in my opinion. You must learn to handle the negative. Don't ignore it, handle it. Now, I know some people teach the other way, and listen to them, and listen to me, and then make up your own mind, right? Don't be a follower. Be a student. But I say you got to handle the negative. You don't have to live in it. You don't have to dwell on it. But you do have to handle it, my opinion. I know some people teach, just turn your head real quick and say, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. They'll take your garden. So you've got to handle the negative. Here's what part of it is. It's called the Great War Between Good and Evil. Mr. Reynolds and I are working on a new book this year called The Great War Between Good and Evil. And there is a war on. The minute you were born, you got involved in the war between good and evil, between darkness and light, between negative and positive, between evil and good, between tyranny and democracy, between weeds and human activity. I mean, the war is on. I want to share with you 3 of those basic subjects. When I met him, I was 25 years old, and when I first got acquainted with him, I used a lot of excuses as to why I wasn't doing well. And he said, well, tell me a little bit about your story. And I told him, you know, I was behind on my bills, had pennies in my pocket, nothing in the bank, that I was embarrassed about being behind on my big mouth promises to my family. And then he gave me one little simple phrase that really forever changed my life. And here's what he said. Mr. Rohn, if you want the future to change for you, you've got to change. And he said, if you don't change, the next 6 years of your life is going to be just like the last 6. You'll still be behind on your bills. You'll still be behind on your promise. But then he gave it to me in the form of a promise. When I was 25 years old, I've remembered it all these years, and I've shared this promise now with probably over 3 million people in the last 30 plus years. And it's going to be valid for you, so listen carefully to this promise. My teacher said to me, young man, if you will change, everything will change for you. If you will change, everything will change for you. You don't have to change what's outside. All you've got to change is what's inside. To have more, you simply have to become more. And then he said, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Start working on yourself, making these personal changes. And he said, it'll all change for you. So let's talk a little bit about personal development. That extraordinary adventure I undertook starting at age 25. And I've never ceased that adventure. I'm still going for it. In the 90s, I want to get better and better. I want my craft to get better, my business operations to get better, the things I do to get better. Because once I picked up this simple formula, I'm telling you, it's easy to figure out where the problem is if you go to work on it. Now, let's talk about personal development. And in helping kids understand personal development, I always start with money. Now, money's not the only place to start. Money certainly isn't the only value, but we've all got to start somewhere, and money's something you can count, right? Kids are interested in money. A lot of things are a little tougher to measure, but economics is pretty easy, right? Because you can count. Okay, somebody says, how are you doing? You say, I don't know. Let's count. Now, this is not the only count. I understand that. There's a lot of other things to count. But to see if there may be some errors in your judgment and lack of disciplines in your life, we might as well start with money, because it's so easy to count. Life and business is like the season. And then here's the next phrase. You cannot change the seasons. That's impossible. You can't rearrange the seasons. You cannot say, well, I'll take 5 harvest times, no winters, a few springs, and a summer or 2. You can't rearrange them. The seasons are going to come however they're going to come, and you cannot change that. So you cannot change the seasons. But make this note. You can change yourself. That was the message I got when I was 25 years old with someone who took the time to teach me. You can change yourself. And by the way, only human beings have this extraordinary ability to make dramatic changes in their life. All of the life forms except human beings are driven by instinct and the genetic code.